Hey guys! So I am actually terrified to make this video and I don't really know why. So first, to distract from that, let's look at my outfit. I'm wearing a dress. It has a petticoat and a top hat. It's great and I love it. Okay, as some of you probably know, because I think I mentioned it, besides struggling with physical chronic illnesses, I also have some mental stuff going on. I have already kind of addressed this, but if you didn't know, I have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder for, I think I got the diagnoses 2 years ago, maybe, but I've definitely had them for longer. Recently, however, I have gone back into therapy and I got 2 new diagnoses. So yeah, hi, I'm Meg, I'm 21 and I have PTSD and ASD. Yay! Okay, I want to reiterate here that these diagnoses are nothing to be ashamed of. I just feel a little bit awkward because I'm still not quite used to broadcasting all of my health issues onto the internet, even though that is the entire point of this channel, which is why I am making this video. So let's get on with the acronyms, because if you are not someone who is into mental health or knows anything about mental health, you might not know what those mean. First off, PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, and I've got the National Institute of Mental Health website up here on my iPad, so I'm just going to be reading some more scientific definitions and things like that. I'll link it down below, but if I keep looking down, that's why. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. The overview thing says, PTSD is a disorder that develops in some people who have experienced a shocking, scary, or dangerous event. It is natural to feel afraid during and after a traumatic situation. Fear triggers many split-second changes in the body to help defend against danger or to avoid it. This fight or flight response is a typical reaction meant to protect a person from harm. Nearly everyone will experience a range of reactions after trauma, yet most people recover from initial symptoms naturally. Those who continue to experience problems may be diagnosed with PTSD. People who have PTSD may feel stressed or frightened even when they are not in danger. Looking at the signs and symptoms of PTSD, it says you must have at least 1 re-experiencing symptom, at least 1 avoidance symptom, at least 2 arousal and reactivity symptoms, and at least 2 cognition and mood symptoms. Re-experiencing symptoms include flashbacks, bad dreams, and frightening thoughts. Avoidance symptoms include staying away from places, events, or objects that are reminders of the traumatic experience, avoiding thoughts or feelings related to the traumatic experience. Arousal and reactivity symptoms include being easily startled, feeling tense or on edge, having difficulty sleeping, and having angry outbursts. Cognition and mood symptoms include trouble remembering key features of the traumatic event, negative thoughts about oneself or the world, distorted feelings like guilt or blame, and loss of interest in enjoyable activities. Obviously, I experience most of these, which is why I got the diagnosis. I'm not going to go too deep into it because this is pretty personal for me. I have actually experienced a fair amount of trauma in my life. I personally think the initial PTSD was triggered due to repeated emotional abuse, but I can't say that for sure, and I would rather not go any farther into it, so I'm not. The other diagnosis I mentioned is something I'm much more comfortable talking about. So ASD is autism spectrum disorder, so autism. Yay! I don't know why I keep going yay, but wait, yes I do. I suspected having both of these disorders for years, but to finally get confirmation just a few weeks ago, honestly, was pretty nice. So autism spectrum disorder, let's see if I can sum this up. So according to the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, people with ASD have difficulty with communication and interaction with other people, restricted interests, and repetitive behaviors. Symptoms that hurt the person's ability to function properly in school, work, and other areas of life. It is a spectrum disorder because there's a wide variation in the type of severity of symptoms that can occur or that people experience. My apologies. Signs and symptoms. People with ASD have difficulty with social communication and interaction, restricted interest, and repetitive behaviors. So these ones, I'm actually just going to read the ones that relate to me, because there are a lot and I don't want to read all of them. So, social communication, interaction, behaviors may include making little or inconsistent eye contact, failing to or being slow to respond to someone calling their name or other verbal attempts to gain attention. This happens sometimes because of the PTSD. I also have an increased startle response. So basically, I will either not hear you calling me repeatedly if I'm reading or something, or I will jump out of my skin and possibly scream. So that's fun. Having difficulties with the back and forth of conversation, often talking at length about a favorite subject without noticing that others are not interested in or without giving others a chance to respond, having facial expressions, movements, and gestures that do not match what is being said, having an unusual tone of voice that may sound sing-song or flat and robot-like. Fun fact, those past two I only noticed when I started making videos. So I would make a video and I would think that I was emoting properly and showing, emotion in my voice and in my face, and then I would go back to caption the video and realize that my voice sounded fairly monotone and that my face didn't really show expression, and I'd be like, well, that's something. Restrictive repetitive behaviors may include repeating certain behaviors or having unusual behaviors. For example, repeating words or phrases, a behavior called echolalia. Having an lasting intense interest in certain topics such as numbers, details, or facts. If you ever want to know anything about foreign languages or world religions, I am your girl. Let's see here. Getting upset by slight changes in a routine, being more or less sensitive than other people to sensory input, such as light, sound, noise, clothing, or temperature. If you ever go to a movie with me, I will habitually pick a seat that is on the edge of a row, close to a door, because when I was a child, the sound used to physically hurt me so much that I would have to run out of the theater. I actually spent a really long time being terrified to go into movie theaters because of this, because it hurt too much, basically. People with ASD may also experience sleep problems and irritability, and although people with ASD experience challenges, they have many strengths, including being able to learn things in detail and remember information for long periods of time. Fun fact, I used to be able to recite parts of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows from memory. Being strong visual and auditory learners and excelling in math, science, music, or art. I guess I'm making this video to just try and show that you can have these disorders and still be quote-unquote normal or live a healthy life. I am going to school, I am an adult, I'm living on my own, etc., etc. There's no reason to be ashamed of it. I know I'm acting kind of awkward in this video, and well, that's because I am awkward, but if you have any disorder, any mental disorder or physical disorder, please don't in any way feel like you have to feel ashamed of it. I mean, sure, autism makes things hard for me sometimes, like really hard, but it's also pretty cool that some of the stuff I can do. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty cool. No, seriously though. It's weird, but it does give you talents, and I don't think that should be discounted. And for those of you without ASD, PTSD, GAD, MDD, any other of the plethora of mental illness acronyms out there, I urge you to think about people that have them as people and not just the disorder, because I think it's really easy to try and classify someone by shoving them in a box and saying, okay, they have autism. That's it, that's all they are. And I think I'm a good example of someone to say that that is not in any way true. That you can have one disorder, you can have 4 disorders, you can have 10 disorders, I don't care. And you're still a person, you know? You're not just a label or a bunch of labels that make up a person, if that makes sense. You know that meme that's like, I'm not a person, I'm 5 mental illnesses in a trench coat. That's not true. You are a person, you know? You have your own likes and dislikes, and so do I, and so does everyone. And this doesn't make sense, but I'm real vulnerable right here, right now, so excuse the lack of coherency. I'm trying. I guess what I want to know is, what do you guys want to know? What kind of videos do you want to see from me now that it's a new year? Do you want more EDS videos, more POTS videos, more autism videos, more mental illness videos in general? Do you want more fashion videos? Because clearly my fashion is on point. Do you want, I have a video coming up about Dungeons and Dragons. Really, anything you want, just let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want. I hope I'm interesting enough that you would want to. And as I said in the description, I will link the site that I was reading from, the mental health site. I'm completely blanking on the name. But yeah, I hope you had a great New Year's and whatever winter holiday you celebrate, if any, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!